Hello and welcome to another episode of the making of Second Chance Heroes, and in this video I'm going to be showing you exactly how the editor works. Alright, so this is the default view of the editor and the view in which most of the editing occurs in. If we're starting a level from scratch and we're doing a lot of work, this bottom panel here can pop out to be full screen and show you all sorts of goodies. So there you go. There's a look at, that's just everything in the whole game, for example. But I can go to the filter and type in, say, like hobo, and now I've got all the hobo stuff, or mall, now I've got all the mall stuff, or museum, if I could remember how to spell museum. But we'll look at some of the fun museum stuff later. Alright. So that's how the bottom panel works, and it's really the most important panel as far as getting all your assets together. It's got the catalog, which filters kind of the different groups that you want of stuff. It's got like a text filter. It's got things for looking at what's on what servers and items that are set to be deleted and things, and allowing you to see those items anyway. And then, of course, the filter, which I just showed you. Alright, then we've got the left panel and the right panel. And so the left panel over here, you've got your save and load functions, your new level, your destroy level, your export and import to export a local copy. Because the way this editor works is it actually lives, all of your content lives on the content server, and whenever you move an object, it actually makes a mini save. It saves that you have moved this object, and so the server knows that. So if I leave the level right now, it would actually still be like that if I came back in. And the important reason for that is because it's a collaborative editor, meaning that other people can come in, edit the level at the same time as me, and I can see their changes in real time, and they can see my changes in real time. In order to preserve, however, the undo history, the editor also locks those items. So I can't change things that they've locked by moving or creating, and they can't change things that I've locked until either I leave or we save the level to master, meaning that we've saved a permanent copy to the master content server, or if I allow my locks to expire, I lose my undo history because there isn't a shared undo history. But that means that it no longer needs to save my order of operations and allows the other person to edit things that I've been moving. So, or scripting or whatever. So that's how that all works. And down here, it shows the list of people connected. But anyway, you've got your history view, you've got your tree view, and the tree view shows you all the objects in the level, like in a long list. And then they've all got numbers on them, so if you create a floor tile, it's floor tile. If you create a floor tile, another one, it's floor tile 0, and then 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, etc. You can also look at render type, which is the pure names of the object, pulled from the server, and so all the floor tiles will then have the same name. And then you can also go to UUID, which is server stuff and scripting stuff, references items by their serial number, unique unit identification or something like that. I might be making that up. Anyway, over here you've got your filter, so you can filter this for a specific item. So if you need to go and move all of the tables around, you can type in table and go and look at all of those. Well, that says retractable, but retractable contains the word table, but you know what I mean. So then you've got your filter, where you could filter a specific type of object. So if you only wanted to see, let me think of a good one, groups, you could hide all non-groups in this here. You've got your, I think it actually just applied that filter. Yeah, it did. And then, of course, you can give your create group, destroy group, parent, unparent, for making groups. So I could make these two objects a group, and then I could say, well, once I find it, I could, for example, unparent that, and now I've got a group with just one object in it. And then, of course, there's all kinds of right-click options here for ungroup. Alright, so after that, you've got up here all of your filters and things. So you've got your do and undo. You've got your client camera mode, which won't allow, which lets you do this. I don't think that functionality exists in the game anymore, but you used to be able to zoom in and out. So we'll break the camera, we'll turn that off. Then you have your free camera. Then you have your orthogonal views. Above the level, below the level, from the side of the level, from the other side from the level. You got so all four sides here. You've got, I actually don't know what these do because we never use them. Oh, these are inverting controls, so if you like your left and right or right and left. There's apparently a screenshot tool, but I think the screenshot tool is for dumping the entire level out for making like light maps and things, because our light maps were all hand painted instead of generated. You've got, I see it, some of these here, toggle bounds. Oh yeah, toggle bounds, these are more important for artists looking at objects and object space and when they're loaded. So objects are loaded based on their origins. So if this whole store was an object and there was an origin in the corner, it would load only when you were already halfway past the store. And so this way you can look at the bounds of the objects and see where the bounds are, as opposed to where the center of the objects are. Then you've got this for looking for normals, so you can go, if you're an artist, and you can go in and look at objects and tell if there's inverted normals and things like that. So then you have your grid view, which only extends so far. So the grid view kind of doesn't really help much unless you want to grab and move the whole level, which our editor is actually very good at. I know like a lot of times you would go into like Unreal Editor and try to move a whole level or half a level and it just explodes. Our editor is very good even if you have to grab it and move an entire level, but it's sort of unpractical for the grid, especially with grid snapping. But there is a basic grid which is maybe good for finding the center of a level space and putting the level there. Alright, then you have this grid view, which is your chunks for loading. So if you look from above, it divides up the level, and when you're in this chunk, it loads all the chunks near it. And so you can tell what's loaded when you're in a specific spot, and then adjust the outer walls of your level to be as efficiently placed inside of those chunks as possible. Then you have your level locks that shows locks if you've locked an object. So if I move a bunch of floor tiles, they become locked. And so this is show locks, always, and hide locks. But my name is just period, so it's really hard to see. You probably can't see it on the video, but if I had a name typed out like Eli on work computer, because when I was making the videos, I didn't want to be clicking around and having it pop up my name all over the place, and so that's why I changed my name to just period, because it's tiny and probably won't show up in the encoding. But if my name was like Eli, then whenever I moved an object, it would show Eli moved this object, basically. And then these buttons, it fades after a short time, and so these buttons would like always show locks or never show locks. Alright, now you've got your other filters. You've got your geometry filter, so if I turn that off, all you can see is specifically placed monsters like shopping carts and fat monsters and body parts. And then you have your show nav mesh, so there you can see places you can walk. Then you have your show obstructions, and these are places you can't walk, or walls and things, and so together you get this sort of red and white level map of what's important. And to adjust these, you could grab a bunch of objects, come over to here, right, and either disable pathfinding here, or you come over to the pathfinding tool and disable it here. And this also gives you access to the monster only stuff, but I'll do more on this panel in a minute. After that, you go through and here's alternative obstructions, so those are like doors and things. I don't know what the blue ones are. It is alternative obstructions, but let me see what that object is. I guess that's like for other doors, like when they're open. Oh, okay, I get it now. So this first one, so we don't use a lot of these options very often because you pretty much know the objects you're putting in. But if you need to see something, especially like if you're an artist, because the artists are determining where the obstructions of the objects are, so that might be more important say, to them than it is to me. But so I haven't used it very often. But alternative obstruction, like these doors open and stay open, and so that shows like this is where they block when they're open, as opposed to what their default state is. And then these, the other door one, are doors that completely vanish. So they're doors that are open and then are closed. Then you have all of your, well, let me get out of, there we go, back to regular color mode. Then you have this one here, which shows you all of your scripting nodes, which is like, here's a spawn point, here's a tripwire script, here's a, and that's important, tripwire scripts and tripwires are different, and there's also area scripts like this and areas. And so to see your areas, you have this one here, and so like this is a zone. These are all zones. You can see here some overlapping zones, and I can click on the zone node. But the thing is like you could have this zone do multiple things, and in order to have it do multiple things, instead of scripting it or putting multiple zones down, you could have more than one script pointing at a zone. And so you could label this zone. For example, let's say you wanted players to spawn here for some reason, but you also wanted, after those players left, to use it as a... Hang on. Sorry about that. I got called away for a moment there. So, as I was saying, this area was... you could use the script, two different zone scripts to make this zone to do two different things, like spawn players and then spawn monsters, or detect when the players have left, etc., etc., and then do different things because you have two different nodes in the scripting editor, which I'll get into in a little bit. Alright, so along back to our filters, this one will show you destroyable objects and monster icons and those sorts of things. So this level doesn't have any of the destroyable objects, but it does have, for example, these monsters here, which are being called individually. So those are 4 monsters in the scripting. So you can see I can filter them on and off. Here's all your effects. So if I hit show all, you can now see decals and particle nodes and things like sparks and halos and falling ceilings. And so you'll see like there's just little icons. Well, there, actually that's a really good view there because they show through everything, so you can see just all this whole field of different various icons and things are all different things that you can filter on and off here, including light maps. Then you have nav mesh and obstruction filter. So for example, we didn't want players to get caught in here because like without that it's a very complex obstruction type area, so you could get caught on all these chairs and things. And so to smooth it all out, someone has gone through and added a bunch of bonus obstruction. And you could do the same thing, adding a bunch of bonus walkable space to make it easier to walk on a space as well. Interaction points show you where you can interact with objects if they're flagged as interactable. So if you're standing near these yellow bars, you can disconnect from the server. I will cut here and bring it back when I reconnect. Alright, so back to as I was saying, these are interaction points where you could interact with an object if it is interactable as a player, so showing that. And last but not least, we have like our wireframe mode, which allows you to see the wireframe mesh as it's colored by the edges of the object that it's attached to. So you could come in and say and look at the complexity of objects or see through objects, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what this is. Warp command, onboard target position. I have no idea what that is. Edit script connections is the script editor, and measure, there's a measuring tool, so you can sort of see how far things are. Alright, so over to the right panel, we've got our build tool, which allows us to add objects to the level. So if I wanted to see an object, let's type mall, and I wanted to add a piano, so there I can add it by clicking, or I can add a bunch of them by clicking and dragging, etc. There's the move tool where I can grab an object and move it, and then I've got different snaps, and then I can move things globally or locally within a group or relative to its current position, and then I can have those be numbers I could type in, and then, well, those are letters, but numbers I could type in and then click the apply to apply those settings. Rotation tool, which I can either grab the orbital rings or I can use the sliders, and then I can put lock or snaps onto that as well. Oh, one of the buttons I skipped up here was a button that toggles vertical snapping and a snap to grid. Scaling to scale objects larger or smaller, and then uniform scale, and then if I want to mirror, they're also there. Script tool for scripted objects, so if I find here a zombie, so I can look at his script parameters. Effects tool for the same thing for like decals and things, changing their size and texture attachments and all that kind of stuff. You've got the model tool, which shows you the embedded model information and all of its references, like textures and things. The retexture tool for objects with swappable textures, so I can retexture walls and pictures and things on the fly to things that are flagged as being able to be swapped, like shirts and things, but you notice like monsters aren't retexturable. The lighting tool, we have two lighting channels, projection 1 and projection 2, and so we can basically have two light maps, and then you can tell objects which projection to use. So if you wanted all this to be dark, you could just have one light map and then toggle all those off, so they'll be all very dark and only lit by the world lighting. Then you have your level of detail, which flags objects on or off for the iPad, 2 and 3, and then your navigation, which shows you a colorized version of where you can and can't walk. But it doesn't show you obstructions, it just shows you effectively whether an item is on or off or just for monsters, and it kind of shades everything. Alright, and below that you've got your aggregate data, which is just basically how many objects you have selected, how many triangles are in the current view, although it's a little less accurate than you would like, because it counts all the triangles and like the group nodes and the arrows and all that. Then you've got metadata, which shows you a little bit of information about the object you have selected. It's really tiny and you probably can't read it in the video. And then there's the Go editor, which is actually more for the programming side of things, which edits, like, that's where you go in, and when you create a monster, you create all those attachments. Like, here's its animation attachments, and here's its health basis, and all that kind of stuff. And you can change all of that in the scripting engine, but that's where you go and add all that stuff in. So when you import something, you would go there and do things. Alright, then we got a few other neat little options under here. You've got your file to open things and close things and all that. You've got your edit, which allows you to like find objects, but also select all or invert selection, so I could select like a bunch of the level and then invert it. And then in view, you've got a lot of your view options that are up here, but a few new ones like hide and unhide and all of that, and change like the background color, so I could make the background kind of reddish if I wanted to. And then I have over here I've got asset importer and links to like the scripting engine and all that. And now I know this level has a scripting bug in it, and even though it won't matter to fix it, I am going to fix it so that when we play through we can. And so this will give me a chance to show you the script editor. So we've got a visual script editor that shows you like where the scripts are and their attachments, and then you can open them, and the yellow dotted line leads back. So if I open this, the greens are the things that are attached to other open objects or other objects. The reds are things leading from objects that are open but not in focus, and blue is everything else, and gray is everything outside of the group that you're editing. So I can toggle that on and off, so if I didn't want to see other groups. We also have more traditional editors, like you can look at each individual group and then arrange these less on top of each other, but they automatically come in tiled like that, and it'll save those positions, but it doesn't save your positions in the spatial editor. But the spatial editor is nice because you can look around the level and see where things are and what their relations to each other are. And then you also have intergroup connections, because we're not supposed to have scripted things between groups because of the way the groups are created. Yeah, on the programming side, sending signals between groups is not necessarily a good idea, but you could. Or no, I mean, from an object in group A to an object in group B isn't preferred. You would prefer to go out, and you could add new endpoints over here, and then back in to the other group, and then you would script all your groups together in the group view. And so you can see here there are some of them scripted together, and like I said, they haven't added any end or beginning points. They just use the default ones, but you could have multiple where you have 10 beginning points, and they could be things like doors in, monsters in, checkpoint out, like that kind of stuff. You can name them all. And so the bug in this level is that these doors don't open after their little event. And so the question is why? Well, clearly now I've opened them both up, and I can see they've got signals to open from this timer, but this timer doesn't have anything coming into them. And I know you have to open these phone booths here. So there's a payphone. There's got to be more than one payphone. There's the other payphone. And I think the problem was there was a third payphone. But let's say I want to pull both of these payphones levers and open the door. Well, they're headed to this concentrator, and when they're both inputted, it spawns this group. And so we could say when this group is defeated, it inputs to the timer and then opens the door. So we'll give that a try. And that's pretty much what scripting is like. There's a lot of complicated stuff in the scripting you can do beyond that, like counters and timers and random, but that is the basis of it. And so now I've clicked OK and it's submitted that change, and then I'm going to go ahead and save the level and play through it, and you'll have a video of that, and there'll also be a video walkthrough of this level, because this is one of the levels that was cut from the game. This is the first. There are no appeals in the food court. The two food court levels that would have been before the arcade levels, which is the real, what's in the game is the arcade, but this would have been the two levels before it, the first of those two levels, and you can see that in another video. Alright, well, it looks like I've got some editing and pasting together to do, since I had a few interruptions while recording this one, and this was a long one, so I'm going to get to that, and I will see you on the YouTube channel. Alright, until next time.